Okay, so chapter 14, responding to personal and work-related stress. So the quote here, our lives are complex, but we are not helpless to do something about the stress we feel. In fact, we often choose to intentionally overcrowd our schedules as a means of avoiding difficult feelings and choices. Then something forces us to slow down. We must listen to our hearts and bodies and face a dawning awareness. My job, my spouse, my lifestyle, something is not right for me. And so it's kind of important that, yeah, there are stressors in our lives, and we'll talk about good stress versus bad stress, but a lot of this is stuff that we bring upon ourselves by overbooking ourselves and refusing to say no. And sometimes we need to realize that we need to say no, and it's okay to say no, and we don't have to do everything and have everything and slow our life down a little bit. So, if we look at the stress factor in your life, what is stress? It's some kind of an internal or external stimulus, a stressor, and then there's a physical and an emotional response that occurs to that stressor. And this dates all the way back to evolution, that we needed stress, and then that would trigger the fight or flight mechanism that we needed for survival, and that's what stress is. So stress can come from your environment, body, and mind. There can be positive stress and negative stress. Positive stress is called eustress, and you need it to survive. If we didn't feel stress when the saber-toothed tiger came, we would just stand there and we would have gotten eaten. So we need that eustress, that good stress, to help ourselves grow. So it's just like anything else. The reason you exercise, the reason you lift, the reason you study is because when you stress your system, your physical system, your mental system, then you also repair and grow from that. And that's the same thing with positive stress. Positive stress helps us grow as people. So responding to stress, there's three elements. First, you experience the stressor. Then your perception of it determines your response to it. So if it's a stressor and you realize it's a stressor, but you choose not to respond to it, then it helps. So it attempt to respond in ways that help you establish mental, physical, and emotional balance. So you experience the stressor, take a step back, make sure you think about it and examine how you're perceiving it, and then decide how to respond to it. And a natural response, again, like I talked about for evolution, is the fight or flight. That's how we are hardwired for survival. So major causes of stress, a lot of these things are things that we can control, some of them aren't. So work-life balance, that is something we have control over. When we overwork ourselves and then we don't have enough time for our family, that causes stress. Change in the workplace. People don't adapt well to change. Change kind of freaks them out a little bit. So whenever there's change, either at school or the workplace, at home, whatever, we're kind of creatures of habit. It causes stress in our lives. Multitasking, that is probably the biggest thing I see in terms of stressors, is we feel like we need to be connected to what's going on in the world 24/7. The fact that people sleep with their cell phones next to them and in the middle of the night will wake up and receive texts and text back. This information overload really causes problems. And the research shows that multitasking is horrible. It is not effective. What you do when you multitask is you do lots of things half well at best anyway. So internet addiction, that's another cause of stress. It's just like any kind of other addiction. It really leads to poor health and depression because being on the internet doesn't fulfill our lives. It doesn't have a net addition to our life. And so we think we need it and we get addicted to it. And then what ends up happening is later on we realize that we just wasted hours. Other causes of stress is how your workstation is even set up. It can cause physical stress due to the fact that we have poor posture. And there's some research that goes to show that a lot of our athletic injuries are a result of the fact that we sit too much. And that when we do sit, we have poor posture, and it leads to all kinds of problems down the road. And by down the road, I also mean down the road physically, that it causes us to have hamstring problems, calf problems, arch problems, and all those types of things. Another major cause of stress is noise pollution. I happen to live in a house with 4 kids from 7th grade to 2nd grade, and when they're all yelling and screaming and going, it really that's one of my stresses at home, is just constant noise. And so it kind of makes it difficult. And that's part of the reason why I get up so early in the morning, is I've got this hour where things are just calm and peaceful, and I don't have to deal with noise. And so it helps me get off to a good start, I guess, for the day. Incompetent leaders is another cause of stress, because one of the problems with incompetent leaders is we can't control it very well, because they are in charge, and so we have to respond to what they do, and we don't have any control over what they do. We only have control over how we respond. But incompetent leaders do all kinds of things that just add stress to our day or add stress to our lives, and so that's something to kind of be aware of too. Work and life transitions, when you are going from one thing to another, if you are changing maybe what you're doing at work, that's going to cause some stress. Other things like marriage, divorce, births, deaths, moves, all of those types of things are really going to cause additional stress to our lives. Even though they're good things, they can still add stress. Rumination, when we continually replay these moments in our lives over and over and over again, and we just have more and more negative thoughts, and we relive these negative events, it causes a lot of stress, because we're not letting it go. We're not moving on. We're not moving forward. Warning signs of too much stress is, one, you get physical symptoms. You're worn down. There's a table on 14.1 on page 307 that goes through each of these different kinds. But for physical symptoms, I mean, you can start getting headaches, you get sick, you're worn down. Emotional symptoms, you're irritable, you're not nearly as easygoing as you normally are. Relational symptoms, you have more fights with your friends, family, spouses. 90% of illness is stress related. When we are overworked, when we are overbooked, when we are overstressed, that is when we are most likely to get sick. And so you got to be aware of that and try and avoid those types of things and plan ahead. Stress management, it's not possible to eliminate stress, nor do you want to eliminate stress. Like I said, there is good stress. If we don't have stress in our lives, we don't grow as people. So if you totally eliminate stress, that's not a good thing either. What you need to do is manage how you react to stressors, make stress management techniques part of your daily routine so you can learn to live and grow. Sleep is one of the most important ones, and when you start talking about some of the causes of stressors, work-life imbalance, being addicted to the internet, multitasking, what we end up doing is you only have so many hours in the day. And when you break that 24 hours into a piece of pie, what ends up happening is sleep is the one that tends to get shortchanged the most. And when we're sleepy, it makes it more likely we're tired. Exercise is another major one. So, and plus, if you get exercise, that helps you get sleepy, and that helps you get more sleep, and then that's when you can restore and rejuvenate. Deep breathing is another one where you can take time, you can do deep breathing exercises. They got 2 different ones that they describe in the book, the complete breathing cycle and abdominal breathing. But those are ways that you can reduce your stresses just by slowing your heartbeat and your breathing down. Meditation is another good one, relaxation techniques. Laugh and have fun. When you laugh, you boost your immune system, reduce stress-related hormones, you improve your respiratory system, you improve your mental health. So you need to take a break. You need to get away from stress. You need to go out and have a good time every once in a while, and that's a huge stress reliever. Solitude, being alone, having time to think and process and unravel problems and get away from the noise and get away from, unplug yourself from the technology. And resilience, being able to bounce back when confronted with stress. Resilience requires forethought and having a plan B. You always got to be thinking ahead, and you need to be able to know how you're going to react to certain situations, and that resiliency can help reduce stress. So coping with psychological disorders, anxiety, depression, burnout are all related to stress. Anxiety is intense feelings of apprehension. It's like you get these it's like you constantly have butterflies in your stomach, where you're just always on edge kind of. Depression is a mood disorder where you just have this overwhelming sadness and hopelessness. And burnout is kind of a gradual intensifying pattern of physical, psychological, behavioral dysfunction where you just, like, life is just wore you down. You're not really depressed or sad about it, but it's just like life is getting the better of you. So if we go with coping with psychological disorders, for anxiety, you get help through relaxation techniques, therapy, medication, exercise helps. Same with depression. Exercise really boosts mood. For burnout, cut back on your commitments. Say no, prioritize values, use stress management techniques, and all those types of things can help with burnout. And therapy options, some uh, businesses will actually have therapy programs available for you so that you can stave off the problems before you become dysfunctional. So, again, early intervention, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I finally got that right. So, by knowing and getting in there and doing something early, tell is part of the problem. So you got 12-step programs. There's a growing web-based counseling. The problem is you're not really quite sure, or at least not enough research has been done to know how effective web-based counseling is, but it is growing and it has been very effective for some people. They are more willing to open up through the internet than they are in person. So for some people, it's been a very useful and productive tool. The only problem is it hasn't been around long enough for researchers to really know how beneficial it is.